Before we turn with Siyata D'Shmaya to the pages of this week's Parshas Naso, let's turn first to a Gemara in the second parak of Maseches Chagiga Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph, a fascinating brisa. Brisa talks about 6 things regarding Shedim, 3, wherein they have a dimyan to Malachi Asheres, 3, wherein they have a dimyan to Bnei Yada. The brisa continues that we have likewise Shisha Dvar Nemru B'Bnei Yada. We have 6 things that characterize Homo sapiens, human beings. Zok the Brisa Viter Shlosha Kamalachi Asheres Shlosha Kibhema. We have 3 similarities to the celestial angels of the Yebeshus Pamalia Shamaya, and 3 things in common with the animal kingdom. Shlosha Kamalachi Asheres Shamdas Kamalachi Asheres Mahamakamaskufa Kamal Bachule. Then the Brisa says Shlosha Kibhema, Ochlim Ashosa Kibhema, human beings. Halamaisa, we have to eat and drink like the animal kingdom. Shlosha kibhema. Number 1 is ochla v'shos. Number 2 is porin v'rov, and we reproduce like the animals. And number 3, motzi and rei kibhema, and we have to excrete waste just like the animal kingdom. Alright, so Rav Yosef Sholem Amshinov, one of the Frierdik Amshinov Rebbes, he's brought to by Rav Yitzchak Sternhill. And his Shalosh Shachus Kochla Yitzchak and Chayla Gimel, he has a Gos in the Yishalmi. It was subsequently printed. All of his Agos on the Yishalmi Brachas is a 2-volume set, Kochla Yitzchak on the Yishalmi Brachas, and he cites the Vort in the name of the Amshin of Rebbe, as does Rav Gedal Yeshor and Or Gedayo on the Moedim in Yom Kippur, page 20. And he cites it also as well in the name of Yosef Sholem Amshinov and Zok the Amshin of Rebbe, a Gavaldik insight. Why do we find twice in Shas, Shabbos Kuf Yud Chesam and Beis and Ksuvas Kuf Gimel Amud Beis, that Ruban Shel Tzadik and Mesim B'Cholei Me'ayim. And when the Eibishter wants to go ahead and punish the Tzadikim when they lose their lives, what area does he target? Kaviyachol? He targets B'davka, their intestines. Cholei Me'ayim. Parenthetically, the Chsam Sefer said about himself that from the day that he met his Rebbe, HaKohen HaGodol Rab Nosson Adler, he said he had such ema yiraresis and ziyah, he was seized with utter trepidation. Ad kedekach, he says, for the rest of my life, I had choli mayayim, I had bowel trouble, I had intestinal issues, all because of the pachad that seized me when I met my Rebbe Hagon Rav Nosson Adler. And parenthetical to that, Chasam Sefer said, the Rebbe in my life that I have to give the most cover to is the Rebbe who told me Aleph. He's the only Rebbe I can ever slug up. You can't slug up an Aleph, you can't slug up a base. So he's the Rebbe I have to give utmost cover to. I'll call upon him. He had, of course, the Aflo, Rav Pinchas Levi Harowitz, Sefer Mikneh, and the Baal Aflo, and Rav Nosson HaKohen Adler. So that's Cholei Me'ayim. Some say for himself at Cholei Me'ayim. Many Gedolim had Cholei Me'ayim. Many Gedolim, when iftar from Cholei Me'ayim. The Rogat Shavar Kayadua had terrible Cholei Me'ayim Sof Yomov. And one time he told us, Taminim, I know why the Eibishter is punishing me with Cholei Me'ayim. And he says, because I argued in defense of the Rambam. I creaked too much on the Rishonim, on the Raavad and Rashi and Taisus, other Rishonim that don't learn like the Rambam. I argued too stark against those Rishonim because I have to defend the Godol HaRambam. He says, and you know what? If I had the choice, I'd go and do it again, because the Rambam is the Rambam. It's worth it to suffer, to endure the Cholei Me'ayim, because the Heilige Rambam is the Rambam. That's the Rogat Shavar. He could say it about himself. I'll call upon him. Cholei Me'ayim, that's Tzadikim. That's Ksuvas Kuf Gimel, Shabbos Kuf Yechesem Beis. Why? Zok the Amshin of Rebbe, you know why? Because there are 3 things that we have a dimya to Malachi Asheres, and 3 things that we have in common with the animal kingdom. Ochlen v'shos and kibhema. Well, the tzadikim zok the Amshin of Rebbe, they certainly sanctify their achila and shtiya. They're making a bracha before, a bracha after. They're eating kulo l'shem shemayim. So the Sotah-and, the Malach HaMovis, he can't get them derech their achila, derech their shtiya. No coincidence. What do we find Rabbeinu Tam and Chul and Haim and Beis and the Ri and Git and Avzayin and Alf? A few times in the Baalei Yitaisis we find hey na Kirshulcha, maybe it's a kol yedei b'emtan shol tzadikim al tzadikim atzon achas kamakamo. The Rishonim ask from different places in Shas, the Ramban, the Ritva, they have their answers. The Baalei Yitaisis, Rabbeinu Tam and the Ri, they learn that as dafka b'midat achila there's a miyuchadik shmira because a timtum halev, special shmira that tzadikim are not going to be nirshol and in yonim of achilo. Well, it's partial like the Amshin of Rebbe. They're makanish all their achilo and shtiya. So the Malach HaMovis can't get them in that area. The Sotah-and, Yetzirah, he can't touch them in that arena. What about Porin V'Rov and Kibhema? They're makanish. They're mitzvah puruvu, the mitzvah ona. Erev Shabbos, they sanctify that as well. There's only one area that you can never fully sanctify. You can never be mekanish the act of going to the bathroom, of motzi and rei, kibehema. The fact that we have to excrete, you can never fully sanctify that. Yes, you can walk out of the bathroom and recite the Noshe Yatzah. But when you're in the bathroom, we know it's also to learn, you're not allowed to learn, you're not allowed to think you're learning unless lafrushim yisura. But lemaisa, it's a place that's mufka from Talmud Torah. In the Marsha, in the end of the day, you're not allowed to learn in the bathroom. So the Eitzara says, that's the one place I could get the tzaddikim. Ruman shel tzaddikim meisim achol meyayim. When it comes to their meyayim, to bowel intestinal related issues, the idea that's makusher to otzas rei, that's my only Pesach, that's my only opening, it's the only way to get them, and that's how I get the tzaddikim. That's the thing we have most in common with animals, is the chol meyayim. Efshor, based on that amshon of a Rebbe, now we can understand a Peladik Gemara in the Darm Chavez and Aleph. Gemara says, and you know these psukim well from the Geras Ramban, that everybody tries to learn, as the Ramban instructed his own son to learn to read it at least once a week. So what is the Ramban, right? According to this Gemara in the Darm Chabezim and Aleph, Shenem Hasakas Melech Baharav, so the main role again, Shenem Gam Rosh Shulu Yomra, Chashet Sinatzim Rakas Tel Limcha V'Chulei. So the number one thing you have to stay away from is Midas Hakas. So Gemara says, if you're going to be Koes, Kol Mine Gehenim Sholtenbo, all sorts of Gehenim are going to roll over you, and it makes sense. Shabbos Kofeim and Beis Kol Koes, Kilo Oved Avodah Zarah. The Gemara doesn't say that terminology, but the Gemara, as the Marsha quotes it, clearly is telling us that if you start with a level of kas, it's going to ultimately result in avodah zarah. So now the Gemara says v'lo oda. Not only that, now Rabbi said, how much worse can you get than kol minei genim sholtamo? The Gemara says v'lo oda ela shatachtonios moshlas bo. Your bowels are going to roll over you. Now, if I were to write the Gemara, I would have done it hafuch. I would have said, if you're going to get angry, your bowels are going to roll over you. Tahainu in olam hazeh, and not only that, but kol minei genim sholtamo in olam haba elafini is daiti like the Amshon of Rabbi. Not only are you going to suffer in the next world, but even in this world, the thing that highlights your animalistic nature more than any other aspect of our lives is the act of excreting waste. It's the most animalistic behavior that we have. Mela. Not only will you suffer in the next world, but even this world, Tachtoni is Moshes Bo. If you're going to allow the kas, the anger to distort your seichel, then your mamish oismensh, your mufko from the hagdor of an adam, your mamish have a dimion to a behema, and a mela Tachtonios Moshlos Bo, the bowels are going to totally rule over you. So mela, we understand the inyan of Otzas, right? If we fast forward to the end of Parshas Balak, here we are still in Sefer Bamidbar, at the end of Parshas Balak. What happens? Vayishu Yisrael Bashitim, Vayochlam Lisnos Elbanos Moav. We just talked about the Moav by Rus and Arpah, the Moavius. We know that Moav, Rabbeinu Bachai writes, as does the Arizal, as does Menachem and the Mishklov. Moav is Gematria 49. They embody, they personify the Mem Teshari Tumah. That's Moav, Gematria 49. They're the lowest of the low, the most depraved of all nations. So what happens? Vatikun Alam the Zivchi. So they eat and they eat. Somebody saw the Baal Par and they bow down mamish to Baal Par. Now we have the Gemara in Sanhedrin, it's a pellet. We have the woman who worshipped every avodah zarah in the world. Baal Par, what, defecation for deification? That's the one she stayed away from. That's so disgusting. Such pathetic, despicable behavior. Even a woman stayed in the Gemara in Sanhedrin who worshipped every avodah zarah. This one stayed away. So we're all wondering, we need Rashi to fill in the blanks. How is a child that Klai Yisrael sank the Baal Par? So Rashi. What's Baal Par? Al Shem Shapor in the fun of Pia Tabas and Mutzi and Rave Zoe Avodaso. Why is it called Baal Par? Because you are revealing yourself. Now that's interesting. If I were to label a statue that's all about defecation for deification, excreting waste in front of it, which Chaim Shlomo says Marach and Sichas Musar is the ultimate manifestation of sheer hefkeris, of total letting go, I would call it an Indian, a conjugation of Otzas Rei. And yet the statue, the idol, is not labeled for the Bechina of the Otzas Rei Shabo. It's for what the pouring, it's for revealing. What do you see? It's for revealing. Now why would we call it Al Baal Par, Loshin Pourin, revealing, opening up, and then excreting waste? It's all about defecation. So why is it called pouring? Ella what? Because Rashi, the Yalkut Shimoni, fills us in the blanks. How in the world did Klaisel sink to such levels? They didn't sink. What does the Gemara say in Yuma? Nobody fell prey to Avodah Zarah. Ella what? Lahat der Behenes Arayis. How did they get them? They were luring them, seducing them. them to be mezaneh with Benos Moav. And they said, the only way we're going to allow you to go ahead and be over on Znus is you're going to have to go in and bow down to our idols. How do you bow down to the idols? Por and Pia Tabas and Motzi. That's disgusting. But you want to go in and act on the Mises Znus? So what was it all about? It was, as L'chaira the name indicates, it's not named for the act of Otzos Rei, because no human being would ever stoop so low. Ella, what's it all about? Por and Pia Tabas. It's about opening up, revealing. Why? Because if you don't go in and guard that which is supposed to be mechuse umutzna, and you're being mater esarayis, you're being lured into the Benos Moav's Maises Nus, that's why they ended up worshiping Baal Por. It wasn't to worship Baal Por as an end in and of itself. That was merely the means to get to the ultimate end, which is lahat der ben Arayis befarhesyo, and that is Gilui Arayis. Okta Maral become a dukti. And the Lashon Erva itself was a Lashon of Gilui. Hence Gilui Arayis is Gilui Shebe Gilui. So the whole Isser of Gilui Arayis is revealing when things are supposed to be hidden, supposed to be mechusa umutzna, and you reveal them. That's the Indian of revealing. So take a look at the Baal term in the end of Parshas Balak. Where did this take place? It took place in a mokum called Shittim, Zok the Baal Turim. Loshen ki siste ishto. Where is that from? This week's Parshas Naso. Let's go to Ravi. The second pasuk. Gabra b'nei Yisrael amataleim ishish ki siste ishto malabu mal. The Parsha of Sotah and the Yalkut Shimoni and the Zohar make that association. Shittim, sitim, Sotah. The Zohar makes the correlation between the two. The Baal Torah made the correlation, the association between the two. Parsha of Sotah is what she's revealing. That which she shouldn't reveal. She's a woman suspected of having committed znus. What's znus? Gilui Arayis. What's Gilui Arayis? Gilui Shebe Gilui. She's revealing things that are supposed to be concealed. Baal Por. It's not out the Hotzos Rei Shebo. But that's the Nurkuda HaBahamis. Why not be Madgish, the idea of the statue? Because it wasn't stam that they went to defecate and excrete for the purpose of deification. They went, that was a means in Emtsoi to get to the Maises Nus, which is an in of Gilui Arayis, Gilui Shebe Gilui, of revealing. Mela. What do we know about the worst place of Znus? Zirmas Susim Zirmasam. Besar Chamor Masorim, writes the Navi. We know that in Mitzrayim it was a land described in Chazal and in the Psukim as Shtufei Zima. It was inundated with Znus. And Mela, who's the king? The personification. The Melech backwards, Melech Memlam and Chav backwards is Kulam. He's the Acharam. Who is the individual who personifies the essence, the core essence of every nation? The Melech Shabbat. What's the name of the Melech of Mitzrayim? That's a land of Shtufei Zima, inundated with lust and znus and depravity. Pharaoh. Why is he called Pharaoh? Baruch Shekivanti Rav Dessler Miltam Leo in Chelik Base, page 18. Pharaoh's Lashon Priya Gilui Arayis. Even though there are other explanations, Ayin Isaac Asimov in his Book of Facts, page 484, and James D. Long in his Riddle of the Exodus, writes the same idea, page 20. Pharaoh is Pharaoh. We call the president, you could call him Whitey because he lives in a White House. An Egyptian, Pharaoh meant the palace of the king. That's why they call him Pharaoh, the palace of the king. And James D. Long on page 22 has his own association to the Para. They worship the Para, and he connects Para to Paro. Then you have, of course, the Degel Machanei Ephraim in Parshas Vayigash, and the Morah Shemesh and his Ramazim to Pesach. What is Paro? Osios Pera. Pera, the ultimate evil speaking mouth, and also Pora, Ra, the god of the Egyptian, the number one deity. Pora was inside Paro, and he believed he was the son of the ultimate deity. And then, of course, you have Paro writes the Arizal and Char Kavonis and Yonei Pesach. And Durush Dalet, Paro is Osios Ha'oref, shows the nape of the neck. He's not interested. The Paro, Pera, is not interested in speaking to you openly. Instead, he turns around and shows you Paro Osios Ha'oref. Not coincidentally, Rabbi said we just had a woman Shavuos time called Arpah. Now, we did mention how fascinating it was. Isaac Asimov points us out as well. It was a woman who's called Oprah Winfrey. Believe it or not, the parents named her after Arpah, and they blew it. They didn't know Tanakh. They weren't studying. They didn't chaz her Megillas Rosh. They thought her name was Oprah. O-P-R-A-H. They thought it was Oprah. She doesn't know how lucky she is. Her name is really going to be Arpah. And what is Arpah? Azot Rokeach Gevaldik. Arpah, Osios Pera, Osios Ha'oref, V'zeu Arpah Paro, Kolomer Zinsa Para Roisha, Para Pia. She revealed her hair, she revealed her side, and Paro, she turns to Oref, the nape of the neck, and she leaves and goes back to Moab. Shitim, Sotah. What do we do to the Sotah, Rabbi side? What's the punishment? You know what we're going to do to the Sotah? We're going to make Mayim Orim, Melakya Koy Mayim Kedush V'chichares, and when Ha'ofar, we're going to take Ha'ofar, the dirt, Ha'ofar, hey, I and Peresh, Osios, Arpah, Osios, Paro. And what are we going to do? Pri'as Rosh Isha. She revealed too much. Por and Pia Tabas. She revealed too much. What's going to be the punishment? She's going to have to drink Ha'ofar, Osios, Paro, Priya, Osios, Arpah, who revealed too much. Arpah goes back to Moab, Memta Sharituma, and she is raped and abducted by 100 men in a Caleb, and she produces her by side. Who is the product? Goliath. What's the name? Goliath. The Feiner Giloi, Sheba Giloi, Yerva. That's Mamash Arpos. Yes, Paro, Priya. And Rabbi say, what was the name of Rus before her name was called Rus? Zok the Zohar Chodosh. On Megillah Rus Tafayin Chesem and Aleph. You know Rus's original name? Gilis. Where did that come from? It's Poshet Moab. It's Gematria Memtes. Can I get Memtes Sharituma? Rabbeinu Bachai, the Arizal, and Ramanachem and Meshklov. She's Memtes Sharituma. That is the idea of Moab. That is Mamash Arpah, and that is Geshmak. She produces Goliath Loshen Giloi, and Rus's original name for Moab was called Gilis. Nachamo Loshen Giloi, but she's masaking it. And Melo, what happens over here? Baal Por, then Priya, Paro Loshen Priya, Gilei Rayas, Giloi Sheba Giloi Zokdamaral. Sotah is what Shitim. That's how we got it. Por and Pia Tabas. The correlation of Parshas Naso with the end. That the Zohar, the Yalkut, and the Balatur make the very clear association. So the Feiner is taiti, it's Geshmak. She's going to drink mina offer. Well, it's not Geshmak. It's a Geshmak association, but it's an offer. Hey, I and Peresh, Osios, Paro, Farah, and what's the meaning? Getting a meter? You revealed, you were Megala, that which is supposed to be Mechusu Mutzna. Meter getting a midu Farah. We're going to reveal your hair, which is supposed to be covered. We're going to reveal that, and that's going to be the tikkun. Arabosa, who's going to step up to the page? Ve'ikach romach beyodo, and Pinchas takes a spear and he corrects the Gilei Arayas. What's a romach? Romach is Osios Rechem. He takes the romach and restores the Rechem, not for a Maisa Gilei Arayas, for the process of producing children. And when you produce a child, what do? You give a boy the bris milah, but the bris milah is not complete without the what? Without the Priya. Milah is only complete when you have the Priya. That's the Tikkun, Paro, Gilei Arayas. You want to get out of Mitzrayim. Zelu Maseh, you have to do a milah with a Priya to get out of Mitzrayim. Pinchas is Masake. What are you going to have? You're going to have a milah and a Priya, and you're going to take the Romach, Osios Rechem, and restore the Rechem of the Isha to the way it ought to be. Pinchas is going to be the Tikkun of all that. That's going to be the Bris Kahuna Solam. That's the association. Ki Sister Isha. That's Sotah. That's Sitim. That's the Zohar, the Yalkut, the Balaturim. That's the correlation. The Chayr, it's Poshet. It's all moving Elov. That's the Priya. That's the Gilei Arayas. We should be Zayche to go ahead and keep that which is Mechusim Mutzna, the way it ought to be. Let's be masaking all these chatoim and bring about Emet Hashem, Eliyahu Hanavi, Pinchas Hu Eliyahu, and Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Korov. Have a wonderful night and a great rest of the weekend.